If you can't control it, why are you going to give it your energy? It's like, and that's where faith also comes in. It's like, just, give it to God. Like, this is out of my control. What's in my control is being present here right now, doing the best of my ability in this present moment, trusting in the process, and just leading forward and having peace about it.
What's up, guys? This is the Mentally Shredded Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Whedon, and today's special guest is a good friend of mine, Heather Jacoby. She is a marathon ultra runner and owner of a Shea Pure Naturals CBD company. How are you doing, Heather?
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. We've talked about having you on for a little while, so I'm glad we were able to finally make that happen.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for quite some time, so I'm glad we live here locally in Charlotte and run into each other to make things happen.
Yes. We actually ran into each other at Project Lean Nation, South Park location, not my typical plaza, but it was always, I just love supporting PLN. So I pop in wherever I can go.
Absolutely. Extra other business owners, local businesses, other entrepreneurs. PLN has a great mission. It's awesome. Yeah, I'm in there at
Yeah,
least once or twice a week, getting proper nutrition.
that's it. That's it. So we're going to dive right in. You're a mother of two, business owner, ultra marathon runner. That's going to really throw people off right there. They're going to be like, what? How's she doing all of this? So let's talk about balance, right? Like, how do you balance being a mother, being a business owner, and getting your runs in, your fitness, taking care of your mental, physical health as well?
It's a really good question. For me, it comes down to managing my time. So I am either with my family, working, or exercising. So I will throw in friends and other situations randomly, but mostly my time is managed and broken up into those priorities. So
Yeah.
it's literally business, exercise, or family for the most part.
So what's your take on giving 100% to what you're doing in that moment? Or is your mind like, you know what, I can give 50% here, I can give 25 here and 25 there? Or are you an all-in type person?
That's a really good question. I'm a huge meditator, so I also meditate every day, at least an hour, sometimes two, every morning. It's how I start my day and my focus. I am always focused on being present in the moment. It keeps me calm, keeps me aware. And when you're a mom and an entrepreneur and an endurance athlete, you can become overwhelmed immediately when you think about all the things you have to do. But if you focus on the present moment and one step at a time, just be in that moment that you're in, one task, one step, one moment at a time, it's so peaceful and it brings a great deal of happiness. And
Yeah.
and and the most amazing part is everything gets done. And like, we don't have to like go through our day stressing or looking at our phone while we're talking to somebody or not being present in that specific situation and being distracted because we feel like we need to get things done immediately. I definitely get caught up in it sometimes, but I make an intention to be absolutely present in the moment. And it's the best gift that I've given myself and the people that I'm with in that moment,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
We've talked about how important being present is on this podcast in the past. And so I think that's something that we all struggle with. Like, how can I be present in the moment when I'm thinking, when I'm worried about finances, or when I'm worried about my job, or when I'm worried about dot dot dot, fill in the blank, right? So what are some of the tools that you've learned that have helped allow you to be present and kind of work on that practice? Because that's what it is. It is a practice.
Yeah, I think it falls under the terms of like being mentally shredded. I feel like the brain is a muscle, just like anything. So if you're developing your bicep muscle, you might focus on specific parts of the bicep to increase muscle mass in those specific areas, but it's done with consistency and repetition. And certainly, once you get to a certain point, you can kind of ease up a tiny bit and gain it back really quickly. It's the same thing with the mind. It's done with consistency and intention. So it's about, I think that's why meditation has helped me so much, because I've learned to train my brain to focus on what I need it to focus on. So, when you're an entrepreneur, you have fires to put out all day. I mean, basically, you get a knockout pretty much every day. You're down. But you have to perform at a high level, and you have to be there for people, and you have to inspire people. So, being present in the moment and tackling that exact task, it's almost like you compartmentalize things like, this is where I'm at, this is where I need to be. And I would call that being mentally shredded. It's just an intention on focus where you're at. Those fires are always going to be there. There's going to be financial problems. Your kids are going to come to you with disasters that happen every single day. Maybe, hopefully, not every day, but every day there's a disaster. Regardless, it's coming from somewhere. So it's just about taking deep breaths, being very present. And it's very simple. It's controlling the controllables. If you can't control it, why are you going to give it your energy? It's like, and that's where faith also comes in. It's like, just, give it to God. Like, this is out of my control. What's in my control is being present here right now, doing the best of my ability in this present moment, trusting in the process, and just leading forward and having peace about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 1000%. 1000%. So how did you develop the mindset to become an ultra runner, right? Because that takes a lot of, David Goggins refers to the callous mind, right? Like, how did you get to a place where you said, you know what, I want to go run a 50K, or I want to go run 50 plus miles? Like, what was it? Was there something going on in your life that said, I want to challenge myself to this degree? Or did you just wake up and say, you know what? I think I really like running, and so we're just gonna go out here and see what the body can do.
Wow. So, how did I start running? I actually was in a really dark place. I was highly medicated on antidepressants, Adderall, sleeping pills. Like, I was on every pharmaceutical, your typical pharmaceutical nightmare. Antidepressants, anxiety medication, sleeping medications, ADD medication, because, like, nobody can focus. Like, and one day I was just spiraling out of control and I didn't know what to do with myself. I had never been an athlete. I've always been active and I dabbled in sports, but in my childhood experience, I never really got an opportunity to have any organized sport support. So I literally went from doing absolutely nothing to running out my front door one day, and I couldn't even run a mile. I was like huffing and puffing, but God knows I felt amazing when I got back home. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but this works. And why, when I went to the doctor, didn't anybody ask me if I exercised? Like, why didn't anybody ask me about my nutrition? And so once I realized the running thing, the exercise was huge for my mental health in a way. There was no stopping me. So I started with 1 mile and completely out of shape, but demons, internal demons, and like running just worked for me. And so it became my medicine. And I educated myself on exercise and the mind and the chemistry. And this is not new information, that exercise is one of the best things that we can do for our mental health. And once I knew that, it wasn't about exercise or whether I wanted to do it, it was about knowing how awful I felt. And this is the one thing that worked for me. And it worked better than any pill. And I'm completely off of all medications, and I am on faith, meditation, exercise, and nutrition. And like, that's where it's at. It just takes a lot of work. And we're not taught these things. We're not taught these things at all. We're taught to take a pill and that we have something wrong with us. And once I became aware of that, I became passionate. So then it developed into ultra running because I guess I have a lot of demons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a couple things to unpack there. Studies continue to come out that show, evidence-based models that are showing how physical fitness improves those who are struggling or suffering with anxiety and depression, right? And so it improves that mental anxiety. And what I love is that you tapped into that. You didn't know what you were doing when you started, right? But you discovered over time, like, wow, that I really feel good after that run. Like, I want to do that again. And it's funny that doctors don't typically refer people to physical fitness when it comes to mental health issues. I often refer to my story when exercise was the only positive thing I was doing when I was struggling with anxiety and depression, grief and loss, right? And so, but I was programmed. I played soccer my whole life. So, rain or shine, I was outside running or I was going to the gym doing what I needed to do. I didn't know that it was impacting my mental health in a positive way until I started therapy, because once I started adding tools in from therapy, it was game over. Like, it was it was literally taking two separate individuals and saying, "Hey, we're going to provide just fitness here, and then this one we're going to provide both. We're going to provide fitness, therapy, and medicine." Most people may not know that I was on an anxiety medicine, right? Like, all of these things combined is what helped create the mentally shredded version which we see today. But it was the tools that I added onto the fitness, because I was fitness was already key for me, right? So for people that, if fitness is already your thing, well, guess what? Your body's used to that now, and your mind is used to that now. You can continue to push yourself, but if you actually want to see results, you got to add that next tool in, right? And so for people that aren't exercising, that's why people see such improvement, because exercise is typically the first thing that people put away when they start suffering, because we suffer in silence. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to go for a run. But the endorphins that your brain begins to receive, I mean, 10 times what just therapy and medicine can do alone by itself.
Yeah, I totally agree. The other thing that's an interesting is, for me, it's not just exercising either. It's running, and I run in nature. And there's something about that element of being in nature too. So this is not road running, this is trail running. And there are studies that have proven that the way that the eyes track when you're running is it helps rewire the brain in a positive state, because you're releasing those chemicals and those endorphins and those feel good chemicals in the brain. And then the way the eyes move side to side, because you're in nature, which would be different than if you were on the Peloton or if you were on a treadmill. You have to look where you're going, and those side to side movements are therapeutic for the brain as well. So there's a lot of different components with different types of exercise too that works different for every individual. Like, you have to find what works for you, but there's also science to eye tracking and trail running, which is super fascinating.
Yes, I love that. I did
Yeah.
not know about the eye tracking.
Yeah, Huberman talks a lot about it. Andrew Huberman on the Huberman podcast. So Yeah, he's pretty brilliant, and I've learned a lot of stuff from him.
Looking for a consulting firm that can help your organization achieve its full potential? Look no further than Deck Leadership. With over 25 years of experience in NASCAR, founders Mike Metcalf and Sean Pete know what it takes to lead high-performing teams. They can help you uncover opportunities for diversity, efficiency, culture, and kindness, all while inspiring human brilliance. And if they can lead pit crews that can change 4 tires and fill 18 gallons of gas in less than 12 seconds, just imagine what they can do for your organization. Visit www.deckleadership.com for more information. Well, right on. I will definitely take a dive and study that. I want to learn more about
Yeah.
that. So now you've discovered you love running and you're just out there getting these miles in. What made you say, okay, I'm doing this for therapeutic reasons, to I want to compete at Badwater? Now, I'm going to have you explain what Badwater is because David Goggins talks about it on his book, and he has competed at Badwater. But let's kind of unpack that because now you've taken something that was therapeutic into another realm, which you find out a lot about yourself in competing at that level. And yeah, let's unpack that. And then I also want to ask, do you see anything that you've learned from now competing? So now you've taken this from therapy to competition. Do you still get the therapeutic feel, or has it switched to now this is something I want to go out? My mindset has shifted now, and I'm competing against other people, or is it still just about you? And are you still getting that therapeutic fix?
That's a great question. I think it goes a lot in alignment with what you said when we were discussing if you go from 0 to working out, you feel really good. But once you're an athlete or you already work out, what's the next step for you to keep those dopamine hits coming, basically? And I think that's one of the best things about endurance running. So when you start running, let's say you started a 5K, which is 3 miles. Then you go to a 10K, which is 6 miles. Well, at some point, the 5K and the 10K are going to be easy. And when it gets to the point that those are easy, you need to up your game. And so, and that's been my journey basically. Like, what's the next step? So it's like the climbing the never ending mountain. And when you get to a high level of endurance training, it's never about whether it becomes to the point of being easy. Now, while I've seen people compete and do crazy things like your Iron Cowboy who did, an Ironman for 100 days straight, there's those people. But usually, one Ironman is enough for most of us to compete, and you have to push yourself to limits that are the training is grueling, it's exhausting. You don't know how you're going to show up. It's a challenge basically is what it is, because you don't know how you're going to show up. You don't know the obstacles that are going to show up during race day. And so those dopamine opportunities are always there because it's very hard, and the training is hard and the discipline is hard. So you have to show up every day. And when you show up every day for yourself and you follow through with your personal commitments that you make, you build confidence. So, like, I think these are really amazing tools to not only build confidence, but to get those dopamine hits consistently. You can keep increasing. You don't get to a point where you've had enough. I mean, your body gets to a point sometimes, like, and what I've learned is, I get injured. I'm 46 years old and, doing ultra marathons, and I did 3 of them 2 years ago. And what year? So we're 2023. 2021 I did 3. 2022 I didn't do any because I did 3 in 2021. So my body was like, no, girl. And then the moment that I could recover and train again, I did. And I'm injured again right now. But having injuries is just part of it. And that also is a practice of becoming mentally tough, because
Mm.
you can't go out and do everything you want, and you have to adapt and do other things that maybe aren't as fun or maybe not really what you want to do. I think it's, for me, that's how I keep the game going. It's the never ending hill. It's like I'll never be where I want to be because my goals will always increase. I mean, hell, there was just a 250-mile ultra that was, I mean, like, the levels just go. I mean, these are like extreme opportunities to really push yourself. So you can go from a 5K, 3 miles to 250 miles. I mean, like, there's a lot of opportunity to not get bored.
There were so many people that believed that our bodies couldn't even do that, right? Just a few decades ago, right? Our bodies aren't designed to run more than a marathon. Well, heck, even a marathon was probably at one point looked at like no one can run that. No one can run a 4 minute mile. Like all of these things that people put limits on others just by themselves believing that they truly cannot do it. And so they spew all of this, all of their own negative and self-doubt and insecurities on other people, and people receive that and take that in. And that's the point of being mentally shredded, is you combat the values and the belief system that you were brought up with, right? Like you figure out, is this actually something I believe? I challenge my beliefs every day. Even as a Christian, I challenge my Christian beliefs. I challenge my physical beliefs. I challenge my mental beliefs, right? I challenge all of these things so that I know, is this something that I truly believe, or is this something from someone else? Because I want to know, like, this is the only life that I'm going to live. I want to know that I lived it to the best of my ability, believing. And look, I could believe something today and not believe it tomorrow. But I also know that that's a beautiful thing, right? That's the beauty of growth. I'm peeling back layers like an onion. And so yes, I have my core belief system. I have my core foundation. And I'm rooted in my values and in my foundation. However, as long as there's not a crack in my foundation, I can still challenge different pillars. I can challenge the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the financial pillars that I rebuilt my foundation on. That's because you can find extra growth. You can find another layer, another version of yourself in that. So I love, even when you said you got injured, you were like, okay, well, I can't go run right now. What am I going to do? I.e., you can throw in the towel, or you can figure out something else to do. You can get on the rower, or you can get on a bike, or you can honestly do abs because your legs are that messed up to where you can't do any of the other cardio stuff, right? Like most people make excuses. And so what I look to do is, okay, I wait for somebody to give me an excuse, because those are the people I want around me. If I give you an excuse, I need you to challenge me, because that excuse probably coming from an insecurity that I'm not even aware of, or it's an insecurity that I'm just not ready to challenge on my own. And so you want those people around you that can actually push and challenge you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's easy to be a victim. It's way easier to be a victim.
Yeah. Yeah. So owner of a company, right? Like what made you say, okay, well, I think a Shea is for me. I think because I've tried your products and they're absolutely amazing. And I wish I had them during my playing career, but I use them now because I destroy my body in CrossFit. So, and it's done wonders for me. But let's talk a little bit about what made you go the business route, and why a Shea.
So my daughter, there's two reasons to start that we started the company. So my daughter is an equestrian rider. So she's a horseback rider and had a concussion, a really bad concussion. And the neurologist had recommended as a therapy for recovery CBD. And I thought that was fascinating. Now, I've always been a lover of cannabis, and like part of me coming off of my medications, CBD was a huge regimen for me to keep my anxiety and stress at bay, to get sleep, especially when I was coming off of sleeping medications that I was highly dependent on. So those things really worked for me. But more importantly, when she used it for concussion therapy, it worked. So not only did it work to stabilize her mood and her, I mean, she was depressed. It's sad. It's lonely when you get a concussion. There's not a lot that you can do. You're forced into alone time. When you're a teenager, that's really hard. Like, you're used to being around people. You're forced into solitude, basically, and quiet time to be with yourself. It can be really hard, and you can't do anything that you want. So it helped for her mood, but it also helped with her cognitive repair. So CBD is a regenesis, so it actually repairs damage in the brain. A lot of professional athletes turn to CBD to do concussion recovery. There is even an FDA certified CBD called Epidiolex that are used for children with rare forms of that seizures that actually work better than the pharmaceutical drugs. And so, in some cases, and so it's been a great medicine for support for concussion and brain. So it's great for focus, for concentration. It repairs damage in the brain, especially for like even THC users, people that love cannabis or like higher concentrations of THC. THC has been known to cause damage in the hippocampus part of the brain. And in studies, they are proven that CBD actually repairs that damage that the THC causes. So it's really important to make sure that any like people that like THC should be using CBD, because a lot of times I'll get kickback, and the thing is, oh, I want the real stuff. And like, I get it, like, and I think it's way healthier than alcohol or any of those kind of things, but we have to take our brain health very seriously. And CBD is a natural way to repair damage in the brain as a neuroregenesis. So it's pretty fascinating. So it helped her a ton. It helped me with my support coming off of medications, and it's just been my go-to medication that's natural. The other thing that's important to note is, why does it work? Well, we have receptors in our body. We have a system in our body called the endocannabinoid system. We actually produce our own. So it works by activating receptor sites. We don't have an ibuprofen system. We don't have a Zoloft system. But we do have a cannabinoid system. And so we get depleted, and these are natural plant alternatives that replace the depletion in our system. That's why it makes us feel good.
Isn't that funny that this is all taking off right now? We've had this at our dispense for so long, but that kind of sheds a little bit of light, not to blast anybody, but that sheds light on the the medical industry, right? On the pharmaceutical industry, on how do we have something like CBD that there's so much stigma around, but there's no stigma around me taking this Tylenol. There's no stigma around me taking this Advil. Oh, the doctor prescribed it. Well, most people forget that the doctors actually aren't the professionals when it comes to the medication. They're professionals in their practice. They're actually sold on what these medicines can actually do for the individual. They're reps. That's why you have pharmaceutical reps that go to these practices and teach and educate the doctors, right? And so it is always important for us to give power back to the individual. We have to study these things on our own. And I love that you shed light on the power of CBD and what it means, what it can actually do for the improvement of our brain health.
It's really fascinating. And actually, another interesting thing is, so some therapists will recommend for their patients to take CBD now, which is awesome. But they also, in the past, before CBD is now becoming more readily available, and the education is there, and the stigma is fading away, and people are just becoming more educated around the topic. Big pharma has a massive marketing budget, and if they want to promote something that puts more money in their pockets and demonize something that they can't profit from, that's just something to be aware of. Like, that's a reality in our world. But what some therapists used to recommend and sometimes do is Tylenol. And the reason why they recommend Tylenol is for anxiety. And why does that work is somehow Tylenol actually activates the endocannabinoid system in those receptor sites. So sometimes that's how it helps with pain, and that's also how it also gives a calming effect. The problem with that is it's highly toxic to the liver. So, like, why use Tylenol when you can use CBD that's natural and is non-toxic and is a plant? It's not a chemical that's made in a lab. It's, God made plant, and it's not toxic to the kidney and liver. Let's bring awareness to CBD. You don't have to get high off of CBD at all. And that's sometimes where the stigma comes from. People think you have to get high. CBD will not get you high at all. Now, there are CBDs that have concentrations of THC in them, that being a full spectrum. Full spectrums have microdoses. And now there are some hemp companies that are distributing, and they call it CBD, so to speak, but it does have high concentrations of THC. So the more educated you get, CBD does not make you high. It's the combination of what's in your CBD product. So does it have THC in it? How much THC does it have? A lot of people take CBD, they don't even know their milligrams. And it's not their fault that they don't understand. It's confusing. But some people say, I just take one gummy. And one gummy can be 100 milligrams of CBD, or it could be 10 milligrams of CBD. And that 100 milligram of CBD could potentially have 10 milligrams of THC, which for me would make me really high. And so you have to look at the concentration of your products too and see where you're going. All of our products are so we have some products that are full spectrum, they're just microdoses. They're very small doses. What's the benefit of the THC? In microdoses, if the CBD outweighs the THC activates more receptors than just CBD alone. So medicinally, you do get more benefits from the plant. The problem is whether the THC is causing damage in the brain. But if the CBD is in higher concentrations, it's therapeutic in that way. It actually repairs the damage that the THC causes. So it's
I
pretty
love it.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for sharing, just educating us more on the benefits of CBD and then things to look out for as well. I didn't know that it could combat the effects of THC in the brain. And so, as with family of mine that love THC, guess what I'm going to be doing? Christmas gifts, CBD all day. So, any birthdays that are coming up, guys, guess what you're getting? A Shea Pure Naturals. No, but Heather, I appreciate your time. I looked at the clock and I was like, wow, that went by real fast. But, time flies when you're having fun. I always end each episode with an affirmation. So I will say I am, and then I have you finish that sentence, but the affirmation is for you. And then we'll ask where we can follow you and support your journey. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right. I am.
I am capable of so much more than society or limitations put on us. Shoot for the moon, be amongst the stars.
I love it. I love it. Heather Jacoby, everybody. Heather, where can we support you on your journey on social media? How can we purchase products if we are looking to look at what you have, what you offer at a Shea?
Yeah, so we are on all social medias and our website, and it is Ase, ASE, Pure, Pure, and then naturals with an S. So Ashe, ASE, purenaturals.com. Thank
Awesome.
you for that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, of course, of course. Guys, thank you for tuning in. As always, much appreciated. If there was anything that you could take from this episode, our ask is that you share because we are self-funded. And so every share, every comment, every like, every subscribe to our YouTube channel is much appreciated. And we just love continuing to provide this content for you. We want to thank our sponsors. If you are interested in helping support us along this journey as well, please reach out. Until next time, I love y'all. Peace.